So we've done a lot of features, but we haven't actually made these things interact with each other. So that's the next thing we're going to do in this development is we're going to make things detect collisions. So the first most common way of doing that is people want to know how their projectile can impact another character. But it could be characters bumping characters. It could be when Mario kicks, that his kick has some effect on a paratrooper. But I'll just show you a couple basic ways. We'll start with the simplest, and I'll show you one more just to give you a bit of inspiration about how it could work. And the first thing we need to do is be clear about whose job it is to manage what's about to happen. And that's, who decides what happens in a collision. So I guess you need to ask yourself who's aware of what just happened. Is the fireball aware of the damage, or is the paratrooper going to be aware of that it's been damaged? And I think it probably should make sense to you that the paratrooper is the one that is aware that it was just hit by the fireball. The fireball doesn't actually understand or know anything about that. And that's the design we're going to implement, is that the paratrooper is the one that's going to be responsible for all of that. We want these things to be self-managed, so that's another good reason why we're using the paratrooper. So in its act method, or it's doing its animation here, I'm also going to go with a new method I'm going to be called detect damage. And we'll code that up, and you can see how it now acts by detecting its own damage. And it's going to be real simple to begin with. Again, this is some of the nice things about the way Greenfoot has handled a lot of this work for you. So all I'm going to ask about then is if this paratrooper is touching, is touching the fireball class, then what that means is I'm going to remove myself. So for me, that means get the world and remove object this. So I'll just demonstrate for you that this actually will allow Mario to hit a paratrooper, and we'll talk about a couple of the issues with it. Okay, so let's get it running. I'm going to mute my sound here because frankly, much as I like the theme song, it's hard to talk over that theme song. Okay. Oops. Okay, so now we're going to move Mario, and I'm going to have him shoot a fireball at this paratrooper. And it just disappeared outright. So I can take a few of them out of the game here. Let's see if I can... Boom. So, and maybe that's the effect that you want, and you just want it to disappear right away. But first thing I want to address is the fact that the fireball is able to continue in the game. That means that this is the kind of thing you're allowing the gamer to do. You can have like many characters, and maybe that's like a thing. Maybe this fireball has this special feature that it can do that much damage. But well, let's see. Hopefully this will stay still. But boom, 1, 2, 3, and it didn't quite. There we go. 3 of them got taken out by the same fireball. So again, that might be what you want, but you might also want to remove that fireball. So one place you can do that, now that you know it's touching the fireball class, you could remove it from the class at the same time. So we could go remove what I was just touching. Now, the next thing I'm going to highlight to you is that we have to start being more careful about how we take things out of the world, because now that we're removing things out of the world, it might be that we do that get world command and someone now is worth null because we've pulled them out of the game. This is the first time when we've actually done this with code. So I'll just show you the updated behavior is what I was talking about, that now when it runs, let's see here, Mario, oops, sorry, that was a kick. All right, so some super lag in there, but anyways, we'll try this again. Perhaps I'll leave it as it is just for a second here, because this is where we were at and what we were talking about. There's 2 paratroopers in there, and one of them's gone. It was just taken out, and what happened was I got this little error, so something good to know about. It says actor not in the world, an attempt was made So basically this is the error that I was saying we have to be careful about. So you can go and trace it and click on it and it'll show you what's gone wrong, and this is what it's saying. So if I was to tell you what the problem is, here I'm saying remove the paratroopa from the world, and then that same paratroopa that's gone is going to remove the fireball it's touching. So in this case the order definitely matters because it doesn't know what fireball it's touching anymore. It's already been removed from the world, so it's not touching anybody. We can't ask this question anymore because it's not in the world. So I can fix it by putting it above. So in the sequence, now I'm removing the fireball and myself, so the user doesn't see anything different happen, but this time it should function the way we expect. So I'm going to clear my error screen because I am allowed to ask who I'm touching since I'm still in the world. And I'll remove the fireball that I'm touching and then remove myself. So this is one of those things that tends to drive novices crazy, but it's a good thing to highlight to you as soon as we get on the get-go here so you can see what's happening. But yeah, most often that is one of the errors that will happen to you, is that you'll be asking about information for a world when no one's actually there. There's actually another place where we could have a problem, and I'll show it to you in a second here. But let's just see that the new fireball removes itself properly and hopefully is not going to trigger an error. Okay, finally. Looks like we might have a chance at running this. It took forever to compile. Okay, so I'll go for this guy up here. I'll put my fireball there. Again, I apologize for the lag, but hopefully it'll respond here. I'm not sure why the system is so plagued by... there we go. So both have disappeared here. And again, from a design perspective, one way you could think of this is that the fireball is unleashed in the world and perhaps like absorbed into the paratrooper, so the paratrooper is the one that takes it out of the world. Now, the chain of where things are managed is definitely what's going to happen then when you're trying to track those errors. You know, if you can't figure out why that's throwing a null pointer, then somebody has pulled it out of the world who wasn't supposed to, or you didn't expect. Now, the same caution about where you pull things out of the world happens here in the ACT method, because all of this stuff expects that your paratroopa is in the world right now. This method could remove it. So if I was careless and I decided to say, okay, let's just detect damage. If that's the first thing that happens and I remove the paratroopa, that means none of these are valid calls because it's no longer in the world to deal with it. So be careful about the sequencing you use. Make sure in your mind that what you've done is not going to make that inconsistency happen, where your character or the character you're looking at doesn't actually have a place in the world and you're asking about it. Okay, so let's go and make this a little bit, I suppose, a little bit better. And what I'm going to do is, with the paratroopa's damage, I'm going to show you sort of a way we can capture some messaging in this game. So what I mean is, I'm going to add something to the fireball now, which is a damage. So down here, I'm going to say private int damage. And you can tell me when you build this how much damage that you want to create. And what that means is when Mario fires it, I'm going to need to keep track of that. Possibly what I'll do then, yeah, that's fine, I guess. So now I know how much damage it's going to inflict. And here I need some way that people can access it. So I'll say public int get damage, and I'll say this is just to tell someone, and in this case it's going to be the paratroopa, how much damage to inflict. So this is what we're going to do now, is we're going to make this sort of like a lives system, which again is another common way that collisions are processed. So up here, I'm going to say private int lives. And we'll give the paratroopa 3 lives. So down here, I need to update the way I deal with this code. Now it's not just a matter of generically referring. I actually need to go and get the fireball I'm dealing with. So one way that a mechanism that you can do that in Greenfoot is you can actually say fireball, give it a name for your variable, and I'm going to say get one intersecting object. That's the method call from Greenfoot, and it's going to be from the fireball class. So one of the fireballs that's touching this paratroopa will get processed, and Java returns an object here. And we've talked about casting, and objects are not good enough in this instance because not all objects are fireballs. All fireballs are objects, but if it's returning an object, Java's going to complain because I'm trying to return an object, and Java will say to you, well, not all of the objects are fireballs. So the only way you can get past it is if you tell Java, look, I promise you what I'm getting here, you're casting it into a fireball, and then Java will let you go through with this in your code. So again, the reason I need to do that is I want to figure out how many lives to take away from this paratroopa. So I'm going to say lives minus equals fireball.get damage. And one nice thing about setting the damage of the fireball at runtime is you could use random numbers if you wanted, or you could give it more strength than a power-up, or however else you may wish to do it. But at the end of this, I'm going to check if lives is less than or equal to 0. That's enough damage that this now needs to be removed from the world. So now this paratroopa can be damaged several times, and it won't remove itself until all of its lives are gone. Regardless, though, we still want that behavior of getting the world and removing the object that touched us, which was the fireball. So before I just called remove touching. Now I'm saying that I need to remove this fireball. So either way, this is going to happen. And of course, one unfortunate thing about it, as you see, is there's a potential for the error to happen again. That one where I would be asking for the world and it's not there and I've removed it. So again, one quick fix for it is to say, well, no matter what, I'm going to remove this fireball. So it's possible that I just do that right away. And then asking for the damage of the fireball has nothing to do with the game. So it's not a Greenfoot call. It's not about who's touching it, where it is in the world, its location, any of that stuff. So it can return that even when it's been pulled out of the world, and then you could proceed as follows. The other way is, if you know you're going to need to work with it and you have no other way to do it, is you could just say world, my world is get world. So before you go and mess with all of the actors in it and take stuff out and all that other kind of stuff, this way you've saved the world from before it was taken out, and that way it's not going to be null because at this particular time where you saved it, it hadn't been pulled out of the world yet. So you're basically just saving where the world was that we were playing in, which video game we were playing in. So that's one other possibility you could do here. Oops, maybe I'll leave that the way it is. Okay, so now let's take a look at the way this works. And I know there's an error right now, and that was why I was hesitating about how I wanted to manage the fireball's strength, because Mario is the one who sticks the fireball in the world. Mario's the one that launches this. So because of that, I'll show you the error here. Way down here where process fireball is, this needs to know how much strength it has. So just for clarity, in this example, I'll just do 1, and our paratroopa has 3. So if I went into my game, now when I hit a paratroopa, I have to hit it 3 times before it's actually going to disappear. So I can demonstrate that to you how this works now, whereas before it would have just blindly pulled it out. The other thing is that I, of course, can use different strength weapons in this game as well now, and it'll more quickly take the paratrooper out of the game. So maybe I'll just pause it while we wait. Okay, so we'll run, and I'm going to try to get myself out of the way here for a fireball. Let's see, this will be my lucky paratrooper up here, I guess. He's following me. So let's go 1 fireball. Oh, sorry. Actually, you probably wouldn't have even seen that because it might have actually processed. He was so close. So I have to get a little further away to hit him, otherwise you won't see it happen. So let's see. 1. This is getting awfully embarrassing here how slow it is, but anyway, 2. And this time he should actually come out of the game. 3. All right. All the lagging was why it made the other one kind of strange, how it disappeared from there. So I do apologize about that, but unfortunately I have the resources I have. Okay. So yeah, now you can see a little bit about how collisions get processed and how you can manage them by, dealing with lives and other strength of your projectiles.